Veterans Day. Veterans Day is a holiday for American citizens to recognize and honor the commitment of the American soldier. It's important for American citizens to know and remember that today's military are men and women who are complete volunteers. They knowingly and willingly went to serve our country, and they were not drafted. Today's soldier marches into hell to face the enemy of peace and freedom. Whether or not we agree with the government or agree with the reasons we went to war in the first place, today is a day to honor the service, sacrifice, and commitment of the American soldier. American veterans took an oath to devote themselves to protect and defend us from all enemies. Their dedication to duty, honor, and country are in large part derived from the history of America being blessed by God and founded on Judeo-Christian values. They vow to fulfill their commission all the way into the arms of God if need be. They knowingly and willingly serve with a heart of courage and a hand of help. Today's soldier faces the challenges other generations only feared. They are the defenders of freedom and democracy as they march across the world to return dignity and honor to the victims of the nations who defy them basic human rights. America is the most exceptional, powerful, and compassionate nation in the world, noted for our history of nation building, freedom fighting, and the most benevolent and immediate help in time of need, particularly during natural disasters. It is imperative that we preserve our history for future generations to honor and emulate. The National Foundation of Patriotism is dedicated to the preservation of our history. Hello, I'm Pat Stansberry, and I'm the Executive Director of the National Foundation of Patriotism. Joining me today is our founder and chairman, Nick Snyder. Nick, share with us your favorite story of one whose history should never be erased.
Well, let me start with that. And thanks for asking the question, because it's a great question. And people do love to hear stories of people who have taken on whatever the greatest challenges are and turn out to be a hero. Hero is a word that's not often spoken, because when you stop and think, well, where does the word hero come in? In most cases, it comes in a crisis, an automobile accident. Somebody finds that somebody's trapped in a car, and unbelievably, they're able to rip a door off. No one knows where the power came from, but those of us who believe in God know. But that person becomes a hero. The fireman goes into a burning building, and he's carrying out a baby and a dog, and he's a hero. With our soldiers of today, I'll start with telling you the story of a gentleman that I met 26 years ago, and I'm going to wait to hold his name until the end. I'm going to tell you his story.
Okay.
He's a Georgia Tech graduate, and he graduated with a degree in chemical engineering. Okay, and at that time in 1939, there were not a lot of jobs, and he looked long and hard for it, and finally decided he'd join the United States Army. And so he did. And he was preparing to be given his orders to leave home and head to whatever training center when he was contacted by a particular branch of the service, the United States Marine Corps. And they actually offered him, I believe as I recall, he told me $11 more a month. And that was enough to sway him. He decided, I'm taking it, going to the United States Marine Corps. So he goes to Parris Island for his training, and he immediately gets into a great deal of training, and he excels at it. Now, obviously, if he's a Georgia Tech graduate and chemical engineering, he's got a pretty fair amount of marbles up there working the right way. Well, this man winds up, here comes World War II, the bombing of Pearl Harbor. There were probably very few countries less prepared for war than we were. Even though Germany had been taking one country after another, people always felt we were safe here. Well, this gentleman finds himself in a situation in the United States Marines, and he is in combat in islands and places people never heard of. Peleliu. I don't think there's 1 in 100 persons that could point out Peleliu on a map. Okinawa, well, they'd know where that's at. Okay. Guadalcanal, Iwo Jima. This man fights his way through all of that in World War II, and raises to the rank of major when the war ends. He stays in the service. Here comes June of 1950, and we are now at war with North Korea. We have support personnel through the United Nations supporting South Korea's military against North Korea. This individual is there, and if you study any history of the Korean War, you'll find out that it was probably one of the least prepared wars as far as equipment and men that we've ever gone into. Possibly the Revolutionary War would be the worst example of what's the least you can do. But we were not well prepared. The North Koreans had taken our military forces and backed us all the way down to the lowest point of the finger of Korea. Literally, we had the ocean at our back. And this gentleman was in the Marines, along with all the others. The right reinforcements came in, reinforcements. Other countries stepped in as they should have, because this was a United Nations effort. This was not America's war. This was a war conducted by the United States NATO forces and the United Nations itself. Fast forward, we're 2 years into the war. We have fought all the way up to the Yule River, which parallels, runs between Korea and China. And we have a huge influx of Chinese coming into the war. They surround 15,000 Marines at a place called the Chosun Reservoir. And the United States Marines were trapped, virtually completely surrounded. They estimate anywhere between 100,000 to 250,000 Koreans had them surrounded. There was no question of the outcome if something didn't happen. This individual was asked if he would take a force of volunteers and try to make a breakout for those men. This man assembled approximately 1,000 volunteers. And they, at that point, and he described to me, he had been in the Yule River swimming, and 3 days later it was 40 degrees, and 2 days later it was 40 below zero, and the temperatures dropped so dramatically. They went in, fought their way along the ridges. He took the ridges in as opposed to what might have been the normal path, and found himself catching up with us, those 1,000 Marines, and he led them out. They referred to this as the frozen Chosun Reservoir is where they were trapped. Fast forward, he gets the Medal of Honor for those actions. The highest achievement of rank for heroism you can earn is the Medal of Honor. This individual dutifully wears that with the greatest of pride. Remember, I met him about 26 years ago. I asked you, tell me the rest of the story of your careers. Well, I stayed in the service when the Vietnam War started. I immediately applied for combat duty there. And while there, before that war ended, I pinned 2 Purple Hearts on my own son. It just gives me goosebumps to say that. When you think about that, you're in combat and you're now pinning a Purple Heart on your son. Before that action is all over, and before he returns to the States, the second incident of him being wounded. And it's like, wow, this is a lot of load on a guy. But this particular individual dutifully serves in Nam. He fast forward again, he gets out of the service. Now at this point, he's in his late 50s. Okay, he served for almost 37 years, and at this point, he is asked to take over the fundraising for a memorial for the Korean War veterans, where he had fought and earned his Medal of Honor. Oh, excuse me, I'm going to back up. He, by the way, earned the Navy Cross back when he was fighting over there in the jungles of the islands in the Pacific. That is the second highest award to the Medal of Honor. And this particular individual when he got out, he took this responsibility to go forward with raising the funds to complete the Korean War Memorial. When I met him, I jokingly tell people, I always looked up to him, even though the man stood 5'3". I looked up to him because he, in my eyes and the eyes of those who found out about him, was a genuine giant of a hero. That man was General Raymond G. Davis. Ray Davis, one of the most remarkable human beings I ever met, served on our board of directors for 11 years. We actually used his dress uniform saber to cut his 88th birthday cake at our facility. But Ray epitomized what duty, honor, and country meant, Pat. Ray really gave a whole new meaning to what that was. His leadership, and people said when you watched Ray in combat, he never took his pistol out of his holster. And they asked him why. He said, my job wasn't to fight. My job was to lead. If I'm fighting, I'm not leading. I had never heard that term in my life. And I found that fascinating, that his wisdom, and I as you think about it, my God, I realize what he's saying. But I said something to him one day about fighting for freedom of America. He says, Nick, we haven't lost an American soldier fighting for freedom for America since the Revolutionary War. I said, I don't understand what you mean, Jim. He says, think about it. World War II wasn't to fight for freedom for America. World War I, World War II, the Korean War, none of these wars were for us. We have troops all over this world, but we're not fighting for freedom for America. In many cases, we have special forces individuals in certain locations that, because of the United Nations and the country that needs help, we supply individual missions, but we've not lost a person since the Revolutionary War. General Ray Davis, and I would please ask everyone, look his story up. I don't do it justice. I give you a highlight and a quick couple of minutes of information, but he was one of those guys. When I asked him about the draft has been in effect for over 40 years now. It actually stopped in 1973. We haven't drafted an individual. Now that is remarkable that our quotas for needs for military personnel can be done. And Ray explained that to me also. He said, Nick, if you make what you do appealing, and you show these individuals that your life will be improved upon by serving in a branch of the military. And he is one of the most remarkable heroes this country ever has. But Veterans Day brings that kind of spirit out of us and allows us to share these kind of stories. And I appreciate you asking. And it is a great day to be an American. But I got to be honest with you, it makes it a little greater day to be an American veteran. Thank you, Pat.
So, thank you for joining us on this happy Veterans Day 2021. Nick, before we close, I really want to comment on your hat. Please share with everybody that.
All right. Yeah. The price of freedom isn't free. Now, that is a statement that many people have picked up and share with everybody because freedom comes at a price, Pat. I wear it to remind people it comes at a price.
Yes. Thank you, Nick. Thank you. And thank you for your service as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Pat.
So I just want to remind everyone, today is the day for action. So many people ask us, how do we actually celebrate Veterans Day? I mean, yes, there are parades and things like that, but for someone to take a personal action, this is the place where I get so excited. I want to share with you some ways that you can actually make a difference this Veterans Day. I'm going to ask you to subscribe to our Unify Us podcast, sign up for our newsletter, make sure you read our blogs, like us, comment, and share on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, Pinterest, you name it. We're all over the place. It's very important that you stay connected with us because we're connected with everybody. And I must make a passionate plea for you to join us and make a generous donation so that we together can preserve American history.